too. So yeah.
Okay. Wow, look at you. Aren't you handy? I don't even know how to do that. Wow.
Okay, let's see. So I have you tags on Facebook. Let me know if you can see it, JB.
Okay, let me see.
I'm going to minimize the Facebook.
Yep.
You can see it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Sure, I'm gonna go check one more time. I'm gonna check on your page to see if it's on there.
I don't have an answer for that. Is there something else I can help with?
No, Siri. No, Siri. What is happening? Siri, we didn't need you there. What, Siri? Goodbye. Okay, so we're good. Heartbreak Hotels on your page. We're live. So JB, you already know I'm gonna be looking back and forth from here to my phone so I can catch some of the messages.
Okay.
It's a little distracting sometimes for me, but I'm trying to, because people say so many great questions and I miss them. And so you may see me just going back and forth.
Do it. Do what you got to do.
We don't want to miss anything. Okay. Heartbreak Hotel. You and I, we get to link up again and have an amazing conversation. Heartbreak has been at the center of life since eternity, I think. I think this goes back from my mom, her mom, her mom, her mom, her mom.
For sure.
And I think this conversation is an attempt to figure out the root of the pain and ways to somehow mitigate it. I don't know. I told you, I was struggling. This was a conversation that I really wanted to have, but I was struggling with the questions because heartbreak, I think, is so loaded. And so I think we could have had a part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because I was struggling even with the questions. Because I felt like it was question after questions that I was just having just in my own personal life. And so I'm sure that other people would have as well. And so let's just get started. So the conversation is Heartbreak Hotel. I am Erika Genice. I have dope conversations with dope people. I have, once again, JV on the line. She is a licensed professional counselor. This is what you do. You're qualified in many different areas, but for sure, the conversation of having a heartbreak and ways to overcome it, or if you've experienced it, ways to deal with it. And so thank you for being here. I think people are starting to get familiar with your face and enjoy your face. And so thank you as always for committing to having this conversation.
You got it.
So for the people that's viewing this, can you please like and share, please? I need you to share this information, because even if you didn't been through it. Everybody didn't been through a heartbreak. I'm sorry. I was about to say, even if you haven't, everyone has experienced some sense of heartbreak.
Indeed.
And so even if you're not in that space at this particular time, I challenge you to just share it on your page so other people who may be going through it or will or can have this sort of knowledge. So let's jump right into it. JB, what is heartbreak? What is heartbreak, heartache? What is this? What is this
Yeah.
thing we talk about?
Well, as you said, it is a loaded topic of conversation, because a lot of things in life can cause heartache, not just a breakup, but the loss of a loved one in some way, even the loss of a friendship. You know, I would say that sometimes losing a close friendship is very much like a breakup. So losing a friendship, losing a pet, you know, just some kind of loss in your life, right? There's just lots of avenues of heartbreak. It's just unfortunately, it's just a common part of the human experience. I mean, if you're a human being, at some point, you're going to experience heartbreak. And so, you know, the interesting thing about heartbreak is that the brain, when someone's going through something like that, the brain actually registers those emotions as almost the same way as it registers physical pain. How incredible is that? I mean, this is why people, you know, when they're going through heartbreak, they actually sometimes will say they have a physical hurt, right? Their chest hurts, feels like maybe it's, you know, we'll use the terms like gut wrenching, my heart's been ripped out. You know, there's a reason we use those kinds of phrases, because it is quite a painful thing. It's not just painful, like, you know, painful as in any other emotion. There's a physical link to that pain.
Yeah. Yeah. When you started talking about physical, it almost had me jump to a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go to this. Why do you feel that it's so hard for us to overcome heartbreak? And is there any sort of science behind that pain? And when you said physical,
Mm-hmm.
it made me think of that, because when you think about heartbreak, you know, you go, or for me, you know, I stopped eating, I overdrank, I wanted nothing but sweets, I was depressed, I was in the bed, you know, these side effects that come along with it, right? And I just don't think that is things that we're making up.
Right.
And so is there some sort of science behind that?
Yeah, you bet. I mean,
Yeah.
when a person is going through something like this, there's actually a change in your hormones, right? So you can almost call them heartbreak hormones, because there's a change in that.
Yeah.
And there's such a change because love itself is very addictive, right? It is. When people are in love, they experience, like, the brain is releasing all these chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, all of these chemicals that are released that make love so addictive. So when people are referring, you know, when they're beginning to fall in love with someone or they care about someone, they'll refer to them like, oh, this person makes me so happy. I feel like I'm on top of the world. I'm on cloud 9. You know, they'll say those things because that it really is how people feel, right? They feel like they're unstoppable. The whole world, right, is open to them when they're in that. So if there's going to be a chemical reaction in regards to love, there's going to be a chemical reaction when that goes away, right? When there's a breakup.
Yeah.
There's a change in hormones, cortisol, right? We get stressed out. We're kind of in that state. Our nervous system is activated and dysregulated. And so we're in that state of fight, flight, or freeze, right? So we're doing things to try to self-soothe. Maybe you don't eat, you know, for some people, when they're in that place of fight or flight, it can really mess up your gut, mostly because your digestion is, for the most part, shut down. And so it really can mess with your gut. For some people, they don't want to eat anything. And for other people, that's something that's very soothing for them is, you know, chocolate ice cream or whatever, Rocky Road, whatever you want to say. So there's certainly is a science. There's a chemical reaction that's happening. It's not just these, you know, pie in the sky feelings. There's something that's going on there in your brain and just hormonally speaking.
Yeah. So I was reading, and I did a lot of research on this topic. And so I was reading an article from Guy Winch. He's a PhD. Well, he has his PhD in psychology, and he also wrote a book called How to Fix a Heartbreak. And this is what he says. He says, we get used to having a certain substance, and the substance is the person and the relationship in our lives. Then during withdrawal, we have this this desperate and this, we get out of we start to act desperate and act out of character. Not only that, long-term relationships mean you've molded your life around this person, and you've made compromises as well as future plans, and having to let that go isn't as simple as swiping left to right. Do you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. Look, if you really think about it, and no matter what the nature of the relationship is, you're not just letting go of that person. You're letting go of everything that you had planned or hoped or dreamed, anything that you had invested. I mean, there's an investment that's made, right?
Yeah.
And so you're not just letting, it's not just this person that's leaving. There's a whole lot of other things that come along with the grief and loss. You're not just grieving at the loss of that person, you're grieving the loss of plans and future and all of those kinds
And
of
expectations. Yeah, I think I've read something before. I may have even posted it, where it's not necessarily that you're grieving that person. You're grieving the expectations of this life that you placed around this person. And then your world becomes shattered because that's no longer it.
Absolutely.
And so I wonder, does it become less about the person and more about what you consider to be reality is no longer there?
Right.
And so trying to reframe your mind of something other than that, it just seems it's complicated. It's hard.
For sure. And I would say too, I think a lot of that also just depends on the health of that relationship, right? If there was codependency, that's going to be, really messy. Because in a lot of ways, in those dynamics, a person's identity has even gotten wrapped up in that. So they even feel like they don't even know who they are anymore, right? Without this person or this relationship, it's like a part of them is gone. And, I really wish that we would begin to normalize the idea that, we have these phrases like "you complete me" and "you're my better half" or "you're my other half." I hate those phrases. I genuinely do.
Good.
Because I don't think I don't really actually find that to be really functional and healthy. And when you're operating out of that mode of this person completes me and that person goes away for whatever reason, now what does this mean? You're incomplete now? What does that mean? Right. And so I really wish that we would normalize not saying those things, but reframing that. And certainly it's easy to say because when we're in, when we're in a relationship that's really, that we're very invested and we're very connected in whatever way, we do sort of feel like, oh, wow, this is kind of a missing piece to my puzzle. And it's easy to feel that way, but that's why it's healthy to maintain a sense of self and independence and who you are, and that your identity does not become wrapped up in that person or that relationship, so that again, something happens, you will feel the pain of that loss, but you are not lost, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you have a lot of agrees on that. We have Crystals that said "me too." I think is when let's unnormalize those sort of things, and then McLean said the same thing of they agree, right? Of this thought of and you hear it all the time. They complete me. This is my better half. They almost, you feel like you're just all intertwined, and that's not the case. You both are individuals prior, and when you come together, you're still individuals. And so if you place so much on that person, then like you said, when it is lost, you become lost. Yes. And it's a sad place and a very hurtful place to be in.
Yeah, because, I something that I run into a lot when working with people that are going through a breakup or some kind of loss of a relationship is that, I've heard that phrase where they say, "I lost myself in this relationship. I lost who I was. I don't even know who I am anymore. I became someone else. I was doing and saying things that I don't normally do or say." And it's not until sort of the dust settles from that they realize, wow, I really did lose myself in this. I became this whole other person for this person. And so there's a little bit of grief and loss with that too, because then people are like, what was I doing? Why did I do all of that? Why didn't I stay true to me? Why did I feel like I had to give up me? So sometimes there's two breakups, right? You
Mm.
almost had to break up with yourself to be in that relationship, right? And to become that person in some cases, not all, right? And when that breakup happens, now you got to go back and make it right with yourself, right? You have to make amends to that.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good.
I
I
find that
don't
those are the most painful breakups, are the ones that people realize, like, oh my gosh, I was lost
yeah.
in the loss of this relationship.
Yeah, yeah. Losing yourself is always difficult, right? And then realizing it, I lost myself in something that's no more
Mhm.
is even more challenging.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So in your profession, I mean, you have counseled many of people, right? If you had to give us 3 reasons that you've seen people slide down the wall, child, hey, listen, he gone, I can't. Oh, you know the sliding down the wall.
Indeed.
You know it, okay? You're sliding down the wall to a shot of vodka. We know how these breakups do. What are the 3, I would say, major reasons that you see, not just like the breakup, but that really hurts the individual the most?
Okay. Infidelity is one. That's a major issue. I have several, I would say I see a lot of folks who have gotten out of relationships or are kind of being forced out of a relationship because of infidelity. And that's such it's such a deep wounding, right? Because it's a betrayal on such an intimate level. So I would say infidelity is one. I would say another that I often see is where someone just quite frankly says, I don't love you anymore. You're not my person. Maybe you never were. Maybe we got married too young and I didn't know who I was enough to know if you were even the one for me. And now I'm realizing you're not the one for me. So that is one I actually see a lot of that, where you have someone who just quite frankly says, I love you, but I don't love you. I'm not in love with you. You're just not, you're not for me. The other that I oftentimes see is where there is a relationship, but not in a romantic way, but one of them wants it and the other one doesn't. And then there has to be this parting, right? Because there's just a point at which a person comes to a fork in the road that says, I can't continue to be this person's friend because I have these feelings and they don't have these feelings for me. And that's a big deal. So rejection, right? That's like the overarching theme of all of these scenarios is rejection. Yeah. Yeah. And that stinks.
Why? But I mean, I feel like I could say why, but I'm gonna let you in your profession say why. But why is rejection so hard for individuals? I mean, you think about it, not just even romantically, but a job rejection. Listen, I've had a lot of conversations. I haven't been working for a couple months, right? And I've been talking to my friends and my family a lot about just job rejections and trying to look at them differently. But if you don't take that mindset, you will really let
excuse me, sorry.
It's okay. You'll really let a job rejection ruin your entire week. Like, don't call me. I'm depressed. I'm sad off a job saying that they went with a different candidate for their department. Right. Yeah. And so I love that you pointed out, it's really just rejection. Why? Where does that stem from?
Well, for 2 things that I see about that. One is, I mean, we internalize it, obviously, right? When someone tells us no to a relationship, no to a job, and they're saying, no, you're not quite the right fit, or you're not what I'm looking for, I don't love you. We obviously internalize that.
Yeah.
But the thing about rejection, when you internalize it, is that rejection goes right to the place where you already doubt yourself. It's almost like rejection confirms any fear that you've ever had about your worth and value. That rejection immediately just confirmed it.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? It will bring all of that to the surface.
Yeah. Latasha said rejection is the worst. Yes.
Whatever doubts fears, any of those things that you already have of yourself that you think you have buried, rejection will cause them to float right to the top.
Yeah. That is so true. It already plays off your insecurities.
Definitely.
And so if the guy doesn't want to be with you, right?
Oh yeah.
It's initially like, oh, Erika's not enough.
Yes.
Right. She's not pretty enough. She's not this enough. Right. Versus being like, maybe I just didn't kind of want to be with you.
Yeah.
Maybe I just wanted something different. The job, they don't select you.
Yeah.
It already plays on insecurity that maybe my skill set isn't there, right? You already had some insecurities on that anyway. And so they reject you. And it's like half of the time it has nothing to do with you.
Doesn't.
It's just a better fit for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of my very, very favorite books is The 4 Agreements. And 2 of those agreements are to take nothing personal and do not make assumptions. Because we do that with rejection, we also make assumptions. We immediately assume that we're not enough. We immediately assume it must be this, it must be that, it must be whatever. Like I said, any of those doubts about ourselves that we've buried down in there, those things will come right to the surface, and we will just immediately start to form assumptions. Yeah. Based on those things. And we will base them thinking that it's total truth. And we sometimes forget, and especially with breakups, right? Especially if there's been a relationship and this person, there was infidelity, there was something going on, we forget that other people's behavior is a reflection of them, not of you. We think that other people's behavior is telling our story, and it's not. It's telling theirs.
Oh, Jesus.
So if a person, if there's infidelity in a relationship, that's telling that person's story. Maybe might be telling the story of the relationship on some level.
On some level, but not the level.
Not the level.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's really telling that person's story. It's telling what they're not dealing with, what they're pushing away, what they're where they're wounded, where they're traumatized, whatever, right? A host of things.
Yeah.
But we tend to allow other people's behavior to think it's telling our story, and it's not. We think sometimes, and here's something else. In these kinds of situations, we need to ask ourselves, am I looking in a mirror or in a window? Because
what's
sometimes
what's the difference? Break that
well,
one
think
down.
about it. When you look in a mirror, you're seeing a reflection of you.
Yeah.
But when you look out a window, you're seeing out there. You're seeing all the things out there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So many times there are situations where we're just looking out a window. We're just watching something happening with someone else.
Yeah.
But sometimes we think that we're looking in a mirror, and we think this is a reflection of us, and it's not.
Yeah. It's not on my question list, but when you're talking about the reflection, this is why I told you I think this conversation could last probably forever, because it's so layered.
Yeah.
Is there any part of a breakup where some of the reflection can be on you?
Sometimes, right?
Okay.
There can be where if again, codependency or in dysfunctional relationships or even abusive relationships, right? If we have allowed, if we don't deal with our stuff and we've allowed our stuff to get in the way, and it's influenced the way that we have responded or reacted to our partner, then certainly, right, there's some of that is a reflection of us, right? The outcome of that is sort of reflecting, this is not okay, that you need to look at this, you need to take a deeper look. This person can't do this anymore with you because you're not handling your stuff. So there are times it certainly is a reflection. It's a reflection of maybe what we're not dealing with. It's a reflection of, what we're ignoring. It's a reflection of maybe even what we refuse to deal with.
Yeah.
It certainly can be, for sure.
Yeah. When you are going through a heartbreak and you're going through a breakup, what are some things that a person should not do?
Okay, that's a mighty long list.
What you say? How much?
Right.
You said an hour, right? Like you want this question to be the end.
Yeah.
Give me 4, JB, because
Well,
I
I'll
know this
give you
probably
some
go on.
common things that I see, right?
Yeah.
One is that people a lot of times can be very quick to jump right back in another relationship.
That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. That never happens.
Never. Oh, never.
No.
In spite of how many times I might say it to a person, like, this is a rebound. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. They will do it.
Yeah.
They will inevitably come back to me and say, I should not have done this. Right.
God.
And so jumping right back into a relationship, and really when you do that, what you're really doing is that you're just seeking out the feelings, because those feelings are very addictive, right? So at that point, if you go right out and find someone else to get in a relationship with, that's not fair to you. It's not fair to them, because it's not even about them. It's just about you. Only are in it for how it's making you feel, because you like feeling like that better than you like hurting.
Yeah. I'd rather not deal with my own stuff. So, and listen, I was the rebound queen, so I could say it openly for everybody on here. I get it. And a lot of it was, it didn't allow me at the particular moment to deal with my own shit. Right.
Yes, that's
so
right.
But then it made a even better, like worse shit. It's so
absolutely
bad. It's just added on top of it was the
layers, right?
The layers.
There you go. There's the layers, because you just took all your old crap, any of the stuff that you already had in your previous relationship, you now took that and exponentially compounded it with the stuff of the breakup, and now you're going to go carry that into another relationship that you don't really need or even want to be in. You don't really want that. You just want the feelings. So not getting into another relationship. And I will also say, the other thing that I see that people do is that they won't get in a relationship, but they're immediately chatting. They just start chatting with this guy or that girl or this and that and the other. They got all these chats going on, and they just want to be pumped up, right? That ego is dying. It's like the ego's on life support and it wants that feedback. So they just start chatting with all these people. And again, I don't know how many times I've said to people, like, don't do it. Stay off those chats. Don't do it. We're just texting. Yeah, don't do that. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. But they will, because again, they're wounded, they're hurt. They want to hear that stuff. They want to feel that, what they felt. They don't want to deal with the pain, all of those things. So don't chat with other people. Listen, they think it makes it better just because they're not going on dates with them, but it doesn't matter. Like, don't chat.
That rebound is a setup. You just don't know, but it's a setup.
For sure.
Bad.
It is. Yeah. And, look, I would even try to appeal to people's sense of, if you care at all for the other person, don't do this to them. That's not fair to the other person.
It's supposed to have feelings for us? So, okay, hold on. Time out. So during a breakup, so if I break up with somebody, I cheat on them, whatever I do, and then I get in a relationship with another guy and I'm posting them another month later, that is showing your lack of respect.
I think it's not fair to the new person, right?
Oh,
the new person, not the old person. It's not fair to the new one. You're not ready. You are false advertising. You are.
Look at me. I'm back outside with another person. No, you look nuts, and everybody know you look nuts. Right. And you're not healed. It's weird.
Everybody knows you do, except the person you're now with, right? Who thinks it's all great and good. Yeah. And all we're doing is we're just passing the heartache down the line, aren't we? Because there's a point at which you're going to realize you aren't ready for that. You didn't really want that. And now you're going to have to break that person's heart. So why?
That's happening. It's inevitably. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because think about it. If you have just come out of a breakup, you're just a mess. We all are. We're just a mess. We don't we've got a blind spot. We can't see the whole big picture. We don't really know where we are. All we know is what we want. And we're selfishly getting into those relationships for what they can do for us.
Yeah. How they can make
We're
me
not
feel
going
at
into that
moment.
relationship about what could I do for this person? No, we're good getting into those things, thinking how they make us feel. And that's one-sided, and that's not fair. That's not how you start a relationship. That's not what
Yeah.
love is. And so at some point that's going to reveal itself, right? And somebody's going to get hurt, and it might even be you. It'll definitely be them. So that's not fair to them. So if you don't have enough respect for your own self to stay out of it, at least respect the person that you care about, not to do that to them, because you're not bringing your best self.
Ooh.
You're not ready for that. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So if I say it once, I will say it 50 more times in a week. I swear I will.
Yeah.
Don't chat. Don't start dating. The other thing would be, do not avoid and ignore the pain. Embrace it. Pull it close. Don't pull it. I talk about having a healthy distance with some of these tougher feelings. Don't push it too far out that you can't do anything with it, that you can't deal with it, but don't bring it so close to you that it's just consuming you and you can't focus on anything else, right? That you can't even be grateful, or, that it's killing all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Move it to a healthy distance so that you can have a healthy relationship with your pain.
Healthy relationship with your pain.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yes.
Wow. I love that.
So
Okay. So
you can deal with it. You can accept it. You can learn from it. You can't, if you do not heal it, you will take it with you.
yeah.
You just might as well get a to-go box, because you're going to take it with you.
Okay. So do not get a rebound. So that's one. Give me two more things to not do when you're going through your healing breakup period. We are not to get a rebound. That's it. No chatting.
Don't get a rebound. No chatting, no dating. Just no to all of it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And don't tempt yourself, and don't say to yourself, we're just friends. Everybody knows that's bullcrap. You're not, you're vulnerable, and you're going to let, and that person maybe knows you're vulnerable too. So don't do any of those
things. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah. Don't push your pain out, right?
Don't push your pain out.
Bring it to a safe distance so you can have a healthy relationship with it, so that you can embrace that, you can heal it, you can do those things.
Okay.
The other thing is that be really careful who you get counsel from. If you have friends or family in your life that they're not in a good way because of a breakup, or they're bitter or angry from a breakup, like, you don't communicate with them. Don't get advice from them. They're just going to keep you circling the drain, right?
Yes.
So try to stay away from people that are harboring bitterness in their life from their own, breakups and of whatever nature.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with people that will help you, that will facilitate your healing, not slow it down.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
And I would also say, when I said don't avoid your pain, the other thing is that in doing that, do not avoid yourself. People just want to distract, and they just want to start running around, getting themselves busy. And I get that to a point, but that is not the time to abandon ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. To sit in it.
Right.
Sit in your pain.
Sit in it.
That. Yeah.
Sit with yourself.
Yeah.
Don't abandon yourself.
Yeah.
While you're in that process.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that you taught me, was to don't start getting busy. As you said, don't start getting a second job.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't start putting Ryan in 50 million things. You know what I mean? Like, don't start going to the bar every week. Like,
right.
It, because you'll learn quickly that, and I don't even want to get too much into that, because that's one of my questions, but you'll learn that the heartbreak, as the person caused it and he or she was part of it, some of it is yourself. And sitting in that, but you only really learn that during your quiet time. And during your sitting in your pain time, you won't get it by being busy because you don't want to miss the mark. Like the pain was for a reason, the breakup was for a reason. And you want to make sure that you're able to understand and analyze why this happened. And you'll realize it's not just that person.
Yeah.
Oh, you bringing some of you in that too.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that pain, there's a message in that pain. I think I said this in our last chat. I don't know, but emotions are messages.
Yes.
They are messages to you from you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you avoid emotion, when you avoid pain, then you're avoiding the message. You're not listening to the message. There's a message there for you. And it might be about you. It might be about the other person, but there's a message there that you need that's going to be integral in you healing that. Yeah. So when you get so busy that you can't be still and you can't be quiet and you can't let yourself feel those things, you're going to miss the message.
Yeah.
And then you're running around asking all your bitter friends what you're supposed to be doing, and they're just giving you bad advice.
Not the bitter circle. Everybody mad.
Right?
Everybody mad. Why are you asking them? They mad too.
Yes.
What are this questions? So I asked some of my closest friends to send me in some questions on this topic. And one of the questions, probably 5 of them, was they keep hearing that in order to heal from a breakup, you got to forgive this person. You got to forgive, you got to this. And we don't want to because we mad, we irritated, and you played me and I'm irritated. I don't want to forgive you. And honestly, you can kick rocks. Don't care nothing about your life. Enjoy, but don't enjoy. However you want to look at it. I don't care about you. But we know that energy is not good energy. How important, and I'm asking you this for them because I don't care, because I don't like you. That's what. How important is it? Because I know we talk about it all the time. It's very important. But let's talk about the importance of forgiving the individual in the situation in order to move on. Is that a thing? Should it be?
It is. It certainly is. There's as we discussed, there were layers, and there's layers to this one too.
I know.
And when I bring this up with people, I always say, okay, we're going to talk about the F word. Because I think for some people it is kind of like a 4-letter word, especially when they're hurting. The last thing you want to do is talk about forgiving someone. But look, in order to even entertain forgiveness, we kind of have to have a healthy understanding of what it is and what it isn't, right? Let's talk about what it's not.
Okay.
Forgiveness is not you saying that what that person did, let's say that this was a bad breakup, let's say that somebody just really did you wrong. We're not saying that what you did was okay. That's not what forgiveness says. It doesn't say it's okay, it's cool, it's whatever. Forgiveness doesn't say that at all. And I think that I really think that a lot of times people forget that accountability is very much a part of forgiveness. Okay. We think that it's not. We think when we are forgiving people, we are letting them off the hook and they are getting away with something that they shouldn't be getting away with. And that's not what it is. Not at all.
Okay.
That when we're forgiving someone, we'll talk about what it is now, is that forgiveness says what you did was wrong and it's not okay and it hurt me, but this is not for me to figure out. So I'm giving this back to you so you can figure out why you did this. And I'm freeing myself. There's no reason to hold myself hostage with anger and bitterness and pain and hurt, all these things. There's no reason to hold myself hostage because you don't know what you're doing, because you're trapped in your hurt and your pain. So I'm going to bounce the ball back to you and I'm going to let you figure that one out.
Yeah. I don't get to carry your shit.
That's right.
That's all on you.
That's right. You're giving that burden back to them.
Yeah.
And you're saying, I hope you do. And you're not, you're wishing them well in doing so, but you're really freeing yourself. One of my favorite sayings about forgiveness or about unforgiveness is that it's like drinking poison and expecting it to kill the other person. And so it does hold people accountable. When you forgive people, you are holding them accountable. You're just not doing the work for them. You're just giving it back to them. And if they do the work, they do. And if they don't, they don't. but
Yeah.
you've now set a boundary in your life to make sure that they don't have access to you in that way again.
Yeah. So forgiveness is not blessing the other person in whatever they do. Like I bless the person that you cheated on me with. I bless y'all, I forgive y'all, and I pray that you guys get married and have a great life. That's not forgiveness.
No, who would do that? No, why would you do that?
But you think about forgiveness because it's such a peaceful word that you're thinking like, okay, I wish the best in life for you. Is that part of the forgiveness?
What forgiveness says is that I pray that you find healing. I pray that you are able to hear the voice of your maker and that he can speak to you and that you get the healing that you deserve, because we all deserve that. That's what you say. And whatever comes out of that healing, then I wish well on that too. But I wish you the healing, right?
Yeah. My friend told me one day, she said, I wish whatever God has for you.
Yeah.
However you want to take that. That could be good, bad, or indifferent. God gonna figure that out. But I wish whatever God has for you. And it was dope, because it's not like you are being super positive. You're not being super negative. I'm just giving this a God, and however you want to play it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So it's important to your own healing, because when you don't do it, you're just going to drag this around. You're literally becoming a hostage to the other person's stuff. And that that's what creates bitterness. And that's what makes us feel controlled by the other person. And I know we'll get to this, but this is where the idea of closure comes in, right? This is where people are like, I need closure, because that's what they're really trying to get away from. And so a lot of times when people talk to me about closure, I'm like, have you forgiven them yet? Because maybe that's what you really need to do. And then you don't even need to think about closure, because that's kind of what you've done. So I know that's a later question.
Yeah. Oh, you know it. It's
but that it does fold into that for sure.
Yeah. So I know this may be a weird question, and I wrote it down. I was like, this sounds really weird, but I don't know, because it sounds like you're already setting yourself up while you're in a relationship. But here's my question, and you figure out how you want to answer it. Okay. Are there things that you can do in a relationship that could lessen the blow of a heartache if that relationship decides to go left? Does that make sense?
Yes. But I will say this. I think that there are things that you can do before you get into a relationship. I think it's about who you get into a relationship with. And I always tell people why it's so important to be in a healthy space with yourself. I don't know how many of you have ever seen that movie Coraline. When my girls were younger, and they still love it, they loved this movie Coraline. And in the movie, the little girl, she has this other mother, okay, because she wasn't happy with her mom. So in her other mother is going to play, they're going to play a game. And so she has to find these eyeballs of these kids that sounds really gross, but and so the other mother is really kind of set her up to fail, but she has some help. And so she has to find these eyeballs. And so you can't see them just regular, right? She ends up finding this little looking glass, and it helps her see the little eyeballs where she wouldn't normally see them. And I always think about that. I don't know why. I guess I'm just a simple person who just needs really simple examples to connect things. But I always think about that in healing yourself, it's almost like you have the little looking glass, and it's almost like you can now see things about a potential partner that you need to see and that you would not have otherwise seen. You know, that if you really listen, and I made a list.
Okay.
Let me see here. If I can find it. Of things that you would want to look for, right? And in doing this,
in the dating phase.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so whoever is watching live right now, I will repost it. But if anybody that's in this live, she's gonna give us a list. I'm looking at my phone. I need to be looking here. Sorry, y'all. On the live. Whoever is listening to this, if you guys can write down the list that she's going to give, this is going to be extremely helpful. So this is prior to being married, but in the dating stage. These are things that we need to be looking for.
It is, because who you get in a relationship with is going to determine if that thing ends how that might end, right?
Yep.
It could end really badly, and it could also end, peacefully.
Okay.
So these are some things, and I would say that these are things that aren't oftentimes, you don't typically find this on a Google search, right? We're like,
you ain't Googling how to, what to be looking for. No, I'm getting deep for you. Here y'all go. Y'all ready?
Yes. All right. Number one, I want look at how does your nervous system respond when you're with them?
You have to break that down.
So, I'm all about the nervous system. I'm all about that, fight or flight stuff, because we tend to be just in everyday life. I run across so many people that are in such a high arousal state. They don't even know it anymore. They're just living in this state and they're just being reactive.
Yeah.
So if you find that your nervous system is dysregulated, you find that you're in a high state, and not necessarily, don't get me wrong, a new person, that's exciting and fun and all of that kind of stuff. But if you find that you are in this state, you're kind of in that fight or flight state and you're freezing, right? Like, I'm so nervous, I can't even talk to this person. I feel like I'm in freeze mode. I feel like I'm in fawn, because fawn is the other one, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
Yeah.
Fawn is like people pleasing. It's like just saying yes to whatever they want to do, right? And they say, you want to go play mini golf, and you hate mini golf? Yeah, right? But you hate it. And you don't even want to do it, but you're just saying, yes, yeah, I do, right? So paying attention to your nervous system like that, like, are you paralyzed? Can you just not even hardly speak? Do you say yes to stuff you don't even want to say yes to, but you feel like
it can't be that he fine? He look good to me? What you talking about? He's fine. I can't function. That's not part of it? She's bad. Well, look at her.
Yes, I mean, there's a level to it, but but if it's one thing. He picked you up, he at your door, and you're nervous in the car ride over. But in the overall in the day, you start to let go, and you can be yourself, and you're not in that state. That's something to pay attention to. Pay attention to your nervous system. How are you? Because I also, thinking about energy, right? And your energy and this person's energy, what is that doing?
Yeah.
How does that feel? We should pay attention to that. We don't, but we should.
Energies matter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So pay attention to that, and that's how you'll know it. Pay attention to your body. How do you feel in your body? Can you speak? Can you, what is your nervous system like in that moment? So paying attention to that. I would also say to pay attention to how their words align with their actions. Does what they say and what they do, does it match? And if it doesn't, you always trust what they do, because behavior doesn't know to lie, but words do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
People are paying attention to what they're saying, and they're not paying attention to what they're doing.
Yeah.
So if words and behavior don't match, you always go with behavior, because behavior is what tells the real story. It tells what the words aren't telling.
Yeah.
So pay attention to that. Do their words align to their actions? The other thing is pay attention to the way they speak about themselves. How do they talk about themselves?
Yeah. Yeah. Do I like me? Am I doing better things to enhance me? Right? Good things about yourself. Yeah. If you think that you a whole bum, and you moving real bummy, but you think that somehow he's not going to treat you like that, then
right. Yeah. How do they talk about themselves? Because that's telling you where they are, right? If they're saying things, if they're inflating or if they're deflating, or, are they kind of on one end or the other of that spectrum? Do they talk about themselves at all? Maybe they just totally ignore themselves. Maybe when you even try to talk about them, they just keep pushing it back to you. That's a red flag. Like, why do you not want to talk about yourself?
So what could a person say about themselves in either a negative or positive way that you would say, "Ooh, that's something we need to pay attention to"? What would that look like for you?
Well, if you find, let's say that maybe a person makes a lot of joking, self-deprecating statements about themselves.
Yeah.
But they'll do it in a joking way, right? You should take note of that, of like, oh, okay, that's why do you keep doing that, right? But let's say that this person is able to talk about themselves in a healthy way where they say, yeah, I had some bad times. I've worked and I'm still working on this or that, but I have these goals. They're kind of talking about their future in healthy ways, not in an inflated way. And they're not, it's also authentic, right? When when somebody's being authentic, when they're speaking from a place that's real and genuine, and it doesn't have anything to do with trying to impress you or trying to create some, identity of themselves, like it's just real. Yeah, I think you kind of know that. That's when you go, okay, maybe we got something here, because this person speaks in such an authentic way that has nothing to do with painting a picture.
Corey said you can feel it.
Yeah.
Some energies. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The phrase that my kids used to say this in my outpatient group, real recognize real. They used to say that all the time, right?
Okay, hip.
Yeah.
But it's true, right? It's true. The energy, you feel them all
and
day.
If you are living in an authentic space,
yeah,
you'll know it when someone else is too. You'll be able to hear that. And so, but you'll also hear it if they're not. And so pay attention to that. How do they talk about themselves? And how do they talk about the people around them? That's another thing. How do they talk about people?
Yeah.
I mean, are they talking about people, or do they talk about people like, in a healthy, neutral, even, and positive way? How do they speak of people? Do they complain? Do they find fault with everybody? Do they talk about how everybody's always, doing something against them, or how they're constantly being victimized by people, whatever, right? Like,
what was me? What was me?
Yes, absolutely. So how do they talk about themselves? How do they talk about others? How aware they are of their needs, emotions, and energy. Like,
to be able to articulate it.
Awareness with people.
Yeah. Victim. Corey said playing the victim. Corey, no one does that. Right. Why would you say that? No one do that here ever.
Yeah, that's
everyone takes self-accountability. That's just what happens. So Corey, next comment. Okay. Never happened. But it's so true, right? Yes. It's what was me. It's always about somebody else. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
No, this one on you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So good. So I think one of the shifts in
hold on, I'm going to add one more to that.
Go ahead. Sorry.
It's very important.
Yes.
The last one is how easily they forgive themselves.
How easily they forgive themselves. What does that mean?
That means that when they do something that, they drop the ball at work or whatever, like let's say they had a bad day at work. Let's say maybe they just really just dropped the ball and screwed up at work. If you hear them talking, excessively or repeatedly about, man, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I did that. I'm worried about this. And they never get to a place where they're like, you know what, I'm human and all I can do is start over tomorrow and do my best tomorrow. Right? Like, how easily do they forgive themselves? If you have an argument, let's say that the relationship, you've been dating this person for a while, and maybe you guys have an argument. Maybe they did something to hurt you. Do they own it? And then not only do they receive your forgiveness, if they receive your forgiveness, it means that they have forgiveness for themselves too. If they don't receive your forgiveness and they continue to try to get something from you that you've already given them, then it means they don't forgive themselves very easily. You can't receive that from other people. You don't give to your own self. Yeah. And so if they just keep apologizing over and over and over, I'm sorry. Are you mad at me? Are you sure you're not mad at me? Are you sure we're past this? Are we okay? Or, are you going to find somebody else? Those kinds of things. They didn't forgive themselves. Even if you've already said, yeah, we're good. I told you, like, I've forgiven you. I'm fine. It's okay. If they keep doing that, it's because they can't let it go.
Yeah. Crystal said grace. So there's a sense of grace that you need to have with yourself.
Absolutely.
In order to extend that, I'm sure, to other people.
Absolutely. Wow. Yes.
If you can't forgive and love yourself, then you can never love and forgive someone else. Corey said that. That is so true.
You cannot give away what you do not have.
Yeah, that's super red flag.
Mhm.
These are all of the things we need to be looking for
Yeah.
when we're
And
dating.
these are things that we don't oftentimes look at. Like
Yeah.
going back to the previous point, how aware are they of their own emotions?
Yes.
I mean, if somebody isn't aware of their needs, here's why that's important. If somebody doesn't know what their needs are, it doesn't mean they don't have expectations of you, because they will. The problem is they're not aware of their needs, yet there are still expectations. They aren't able to verbalize it to you. So you are frequently failing a test you don't even know you're taking,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
now didn't meet their needs that they didn't know to tell you that they needed. They just didn't realize they had the need until you didn't meet it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So it's important that that whoever this potential person would be in your life, how are they aware of themselves? Are they
Yeah.
aware of their own needs? Because guess what? That's also important. So you learn how to meet your own needs and not
Yeah.
expect everybody else to do it for you.
Emotional awareness.
Yes.
Oh, that's a word.
And I always
Yeah.
challenge people, like, ask that person, try to get into those conversations about feelings and see how good they are at naming their feelings. If they're not very good at it, that's something to look at.
Put a name on it.
Mhm.
Jamaica said, be in tune with your emotions. Absolutely. Being able to put a name on it, like you said, recognize it.
Yeah.
This makes me feel this way. This makes, like, naming it versus being dismissive about it.
Yes.
Important.
Because if you can't name it, how do you know what you need to do? How do
Yeah.
you know what you need from yourself? How do you know what you need from others? If all you're saying is, I just feel weird. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So, and all of these things, by the way, are things for us too. It's, as much for us
Gotcha.
as it is the other person. But these are just a list of sort of uncommon things that, you have the standard list of things. Do they have a job? Are they still living with their parents? Whatever. I don't know. We know to look for those kinds of things, but we don't actually say, I should pay attention to my nervous system when I'm around this person. I should start listening if their words and their actions align.
That
I
part.
should listen to how they talk about other people and
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
Pay attention to whether or not they're emotionally aware. Do they have any emotional intelligence? Those kinds of things. How easily do they forgive themselves? Because if they don't, they probably aren't going to forgive me either. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or they won't receive my forgiveness of them. So those things are really, because at the end of the day, if you end up in couples counseling, that's the stuff we'll be addressing. Right? It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so that's real, because when you get to these breakups, right? These are the conversations that you and I had, where it wasn't so much about the act, but all of these other missed opportunities that I had, right? And so that's how I'm going to transition into our next question of, when I was in therapy about a breakup and we were having conversations, you were healing me through things, and you were extremely sensitive to this situation, right? But then there came a time where you were like, oh, okay, I think you're good now. We're not talking about him no more. Now we about to get to you. Yeah, now we finna get real accountable, because I know the heartbreak hurt you. I'm sorry, baby. We gonna get through this. But in order for you to avoid another heartache, we got to start getting to the meat of you.
Yes.
So how important is it for a person to truly start doing the work on them?
Mhm.
And it's not so much about, this is what the act was, right?
Mhm.
This person cheated on me. This person left me. Woe is me. And to truly figure out, how did we even get into this situation? How did you even date this sort of person? Do you feel like that started really with all of the other things that you named at the prior question that we had? Or, what is it? Is it just the self-accountability?
Well, you said, I'll speak to, you said, how important is it? And I would say, ask yourself, what is it that you really want for yourself when it comes to relationships or just your future? Ask yourself what you really want and be specific, and you'll find out how important it is.
Yeah.
Right? Because usually when we start really looking at what it is that we really want, if it's about, I want a stable relationship, I want a partner in life, I want these things.
Yeah.
And it hasn't worked out up to this point. I just had one tragedy of a relationship after another, and I want something to be different. And so if you look at that and go, I really want this, that will tell you how important it is that you understand you, that you do your work and you do your healing. Because if you really want those things, you have to do the work. Like the relationship fairy isn't going to leave it under your pillow at night,
Yeah. So the healing from a breakup is not necessarily digging into what the person, and maybe the question I asked wasn't the best, but it's not necessarily about what the person did, because you're not counseling them. It's really about the part that you played in it and what you can do going forward.
Yeah.
Right? To actually heal from a heartbreak.
That's right. What part did you play?
Yeah.
Why, asking those questions of like, maybe I ignored some things. Why did I ignore that? Why didn't I want to look at it? Why, why did I compromise myself? Did I not think that I was worthy enough to ask for something more than what this person was giving me? Did I not think that I was worthy enough to challenge this person or this relationship in these ways that it could have potentially got better? So, it's one thing, like you described in your personal journey, that you have a moment to be able to talk about what happened, right? And to do that, but you've always got to circle right back around to you, because it takes two hands to clap, and you were one of them. And so you have to look at, maybe if I didn't, sometimes it's not about what I did do. Sometimes it's about what I didn't do.
That part.
I didn't say what I needed to say, or I didn't ask the questions. I didn't look, I ignored these things. So, whether it was what you did or what you didn't do, if you want something different, you're going to have to look at what you did in this situation so that you know how to do that different down the road.
Yeah. Jamaica said, if you never do the hard work to make yourself whole, every relationship will be an attempt for that person to complete you, or in different areas of you, which is absolutely correct. And really, that's really what I think heartbreak boils down to, right? And I don't know, JB. I mean, is it a such thing of having the perfect person and just stuff just goes wrong? Or have you seen it in your profession to where a lot of the heartbreak and a lot of sliding down the walls and the sadness and this is really a lack of choosing the right person?
I would say more often than not.
Yeah.
It's really just, that people ignored a lot of things in the beginning. There were all these messages, right?
Yeah.
And people just ignored it. Because they wanted a relationship, or they thought that it would change, or I could fix it. I could fix him or her, or this will go away once we're married, or whatever, right? Like there's just a lot of avoidance. And that stuff it's not going anywhere. It's just going to be waiting right there till you come back into my office and we'll be talking about it. Right. I mean, it's there. And so I think if people, just like that list of things that I gave about, if people would be so much more aware of themselves and that the other person in that context. Game changer, isn't it? If we all probably all have relationships that we can look back and go, what was I doing? Why in the world did I say or do or not say or do? What the heck? What was I doing?
Yeah, everyone.
The problem is we do ask those questions, but we never answer them.
Oh. So sometimes we're asking, but we're not even trying to really, like, I'm just asking
them like it's a rhetorical question. Like it's something that doesn't have to be answered. I'm like, you ask it, then answer it. Go ahead and answer it. What were you doing? No, people never follow through.
Yeah. I love that. So some of this heartbreak, guys, can be somewhat eliminated, because I always feel like there's an exception. But if we do the work at the beginning, I would say that all of my heartbreaks have been of the lack of work that I've done on myself. This is Erika being transparent. So regardless of what has happened, and not saying that I don't hold them, like you said, we hold you accountable and it hurt, and I'm not going to negate my feelings, but a lot of it really is, this was a really bad pick. And it was a really bad pick because I wasn't at a really good place with myself. I wasn't whole enough. I wasn't asking the right questions. And that leads to heartbreak every time.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah. And we want to make sure too, the other person is doing the same thing. Sometimes,
Absolutely.
Erika, we can do those things. We can be doing those things, but we also need to be checking in with our partner. Are they doing that? Because if they're not doing it, then you're not on the same path, and you're not, your expectations aren't going to be the same. And that can end, that relationship can end, not because of something now that you're doing or not doing, but because of what your partner hasn't committed to.
Yeah. So healing journeys matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. One of your questions that you had that I want to make sure that we answer this, because you asked does love, I'm gonna have to pull it up here.
Oh, I know.
Does
The
love
question.
cause?
Yeah, I think it was something as
Let's
if
see.
you are truly in love, you can find it, but I don't know if it was if someone is truly in love with you, or you're truly in love, or this is truly love, could that potentially cause for heartbreak? I don't know. What was the
Can real
question?
love produce pain and trauma and heartbreak?
Mm.
And I want to make sure that we answer that.
Why is that not? Did I take it off because I didn't think it was
No,
significant? I don't
yeah,
know, but you better circle back.
Actually, one of the first ones. So,
Good.
Look, people, this is an issue, right? Because people have these heartbreaks, and then they're like, I'm never gonna fall in love again. I'm done. I'm done with love. Love hurts. I think there's a song even that love hurts. I think I heard it on the radio the other day.
Yeah.
And we just look. First of all, even if we look at love from a spiritual context, that's not true. Love doesn't produce pain and trauma and heartbreak. It doesn't. In fact, if we look in, I
need this answer. Jamaica, I don't understand why this wasn't on my list.
But I'm glad. Look at First Corinthians, right? What does it tell us? It tells us that love is patient and kind. It's not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It doesn't demand its own way, right? All those things. So love is a guide, right, for how we need to behave in relationships. So love doesn't actually produce that. Now, love is the reason that we will go through pain or heartbreak. We will endure those things because of love. And this weekend is a beautiful reminder, right? Because the Easter weekend of what Christ endured for us because of his love for us. Yes. Love didn't produce that, but it certainly kept him there on our behalf, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not love that does us wrong. It's not love that is the bad guy here when there's a breakup. That's not the issue. Right? It's many times it's that people don't know how to love. It's the lack of knowledge why things perish.
Yeah.
And so when we don't really understand what love is about, and if love is only about feelings, because many times we just associate love as a feeling, and that's not true. Yeah. Love is a verb.
Yeah.
It's way more about what we choose and what we do than it is about how we feel.
Yeah.
And so when we get into relationships, as we said before, there's a whole release of these chemicals in our brain, that makes us feel all good, and it's addictive and all those things. But guess what? That's going to wear off.
It's going to wear off. Yeah.
It will. I mean, it'll wear off. And then guess what? Now you're left with this person. Once it's worn off, right?
Yeah, that you're not googly eyes and all that other stuff.
Right?
Yeah, for real.
So you're now left with this person.
Yeah,
that's where that's where love really comes in. Love doesn't really come in, and I don't want to be unfair to say that it's what you're experiencing isn't love, but the real love kicks in when all that stuff goes away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you patient? Are you kind? Do you, not keep score of wrongdoing? All of those things, that's where love kicks in. So is it difficult to do that? Because people are difficult. I mean, they just are. We're all difficult. And so it's not an easy thing to love, but I would not say that love produces pain or heartache or trauma. I would say that trauma produces trauma, and pain produces pain, and heartache produces heartache.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So trying to associate that with love is not, call it what it is. Okay.
Yeah. And many times those things occur because of the absence of love, not because of it.
Yeah. That's so good, JB.
If we believe that love produces those things, then we don't believe that God is who he says he is either, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he is not the author of those things either.
Yeah. God he didn't produce the slide down the wall. The not eating, the drinking morning, noon, and night because you said that's not his thing. Yeah, that's not what he wanted. It's not what he promised us either at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So I think my I don't know, I had a couple more, but I'll just go. I got a couple. How many questions can you take? I got
a good solid. Let's do 10 minutes.
That's fine. Because I got this question that I think is super important. We'll talk about the closure, but how do you know when you're healed from a heartbreak? So when you're actually doing the work and not the rebounds, not all this other things, like how do you know if you were seeing a client to say, you know what, Erika, I'm okay with you dating right now. I feel like you're at a good space. What does that look like to you?
Yeah. Well, number one, it looks like this person is no longer frequently talking about that breakup or that relationship. They don't really need to.
Yeah.
They have forgiven, where they don't even have any, they don't have any more angry feelings. They're not, in this place of, they don't even feel like they need to speak badly of them. That they actually, when they seem to have a peace, right? When they're just at peace with what happened. They're at peace with that person within their own self. They're at peace with themselves, right? Their expectations of themselves are healthier. They're kind of back to exploring themselves and their lives again. I don't typically see that there's usually the blind spot where they're making healthier decisions. They're saying no to the right things. They're saying yes to the right things. And so there's a good balance in their life. I would say too, when I see people that have healthy balance, and when I see that they just have a sense of contentment overall, right? That's when like, okay, I think you're on solid ground again.
Yeah, I think you and I talked a lot about just enjoying your single season, just in my own personal journey of, which I have, but of being just okay with you and enjoying the season of the word, like you said, contentment, and not feeling the need to do rebounds and this and that, and truly digging into you. Yeah, that's important. That's really important.
And I will add to that too, when I see that a person's just enjoying being with themselves.
Yes, it's so freeing, JB. It's such that space right there. I was talking to some girlfriends and I went to brunch earlier and we were just talking about like dating ourselves, right? I know it sounds super cliche, but just like I'll go to the movies by myself, out to eat, it's just whatever, just by myself and not the need to have the attachment of a man or a female or whatever, right? It's enjoying you. And I don't think most of us take that time to say, do I even enjoy me? What do I like? What don't I like? Right. And those things change per breakup. What you may enjoy may change. I don't know. That's
that's a great question. I ask that question a lot with people, where I ask them, what brings you joy? And if a person can answer that, that tells me a whole lot. But if they're like, I don't know.
Yeah. What is it that I do like?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
tells me that they're somewhat disconnected from themselves. They're not paying attention to themselves, or they're being avoidant in some way. But when a person, that's kind of another way I know, is that now this person is finding things that bring them joy and they're doing those things. That's also a big sign that they've healed and that they're ready to move forward.
Yeah. So my last question would be, you tried to squeeze it in earlier. When your time, JB, okay? You got to wait.
Timing is everything.
It was the closure, right? You hear all of the time. Let me just text. Let me just have this one closing conversation. Let me know why. Let me know why this happened. Why you don't want me? Why you cheated? Why you this? Why? Right? We want answers.
Yeah.
I got my own story of why I feel like that's complete bull, because it actually makes it worse. Well, because I still got plenty of questions after closure. So is it important to have closure with the individual? Do you need to have a conversation? Is it situational, or can you obtain your own closure on your own, like work that you do on your own behalf?
Yeah. Well, certainly, this question has a few answers. Certainly situational, right? Because there are all kinds of different situations and breakups and that require different things, right?
Yeah.
And look, is it great in a perfect world where you could have that conversation in a good way and both of you could just say what you need to say and walk away knowing that you were heard and understood and you can both part ways? That would be amazing, right? That's not usually what happens at all. It's just a lot of emoting and all that. But look, a lot of times what I find with closure when it comes to relationships, closure is one thing, but you need to be aware of when you're using closure as a smokescreen for you to hang on to that person, right? You're not ready to let it go. So you just keep hiding behind the green curtain of closure, right? And so I try to challenge people in that way where I'm like, what is this really about? This is how you are staying attached to this person because you're not ready to fully let go. You're not ready to fully accept that this thing is over. And so you just keep bringing up closure. So I think the first thing is that you have to be honest with yourself about closure, what that really means.
Yeah.
If you're using it to hang on. Can you have closure without that person? Yes, you can, because a lot of the closure that you would have would be with you anyway, right? This is about you accepting what has happened, recognizing that I cannot change what happened. I can't change how this other person perceives. I can't change any of those things, that's especially hard when maybe there has been something that's happened, maybe infidelity or whatever, and this person's not owning it and they're lying or they're denying or whatever it is that they're doing. That's really difficult for people because they just think if they would just be honest about it, then I could let it go.
Yeah.
That's not entirely true, because now if they're honest, guess what's coming? Well, who was it? How many times?
Questions. That's why I said the closure thing. Yes, right? The closure thing produces, or it can, the closure questions can create more confusion and more pain.
Definitely.
You're like, well, I'm even more lost now that So
and I always ask people when they, start talking about closure questions, I'm like, well, what would that actually do for you? Even if they told you the truth, what are you really expecting to get from this? Like, do you really think that suddenly your whole heart is going to be like, oh, okay, I'm completely fine with this now. That's great. Thank you for just being honest. That's all that I needed. That's not going to happen at all. So, I think it's great if you can have a good, healthy conversation and end on that note. But if you can't, the closure is always going to be with you. It's always going to be about your acceptance. Yes. Recognizing what you can do, what you cannot do, and letting go of the rest of what doesn't concern you. And that's where the forgiveness thing comes in. If you don't forgive, there won't be closure. How can there be?
So true. It's so true.
So really, in a sense, forgiveness is closure. It's not questions. It's not conversations. It's not, if he would just say this or she would just, tell me that, whatever. It isn't that. It's always going to come right back down to forgiveness.
Yeah. Yeah. And it starts with you.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of this is what and which is why I wanted to have this conversation, because I think sometimes it's a misconception of a breakup and heartache is solely on the person who caused it, and where they may have caused some of the pain.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with you and taking accountability for every aspect of it, including the closure, forgiveness, and the healing part. Because this person could have moved on, living their best life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're still stuck.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people have been very stuck in this place of, I'm still in pain. I can't move on. I met a great guy, but I'm still in pain from my last relationship. And so it's a cycle of unhealing. And it's almost like you're waiting on this person to do something, and they could give a shit. They didn't move all the way on.
Yeah.
In their own little toxic life. Let them do you.
Right.
And so it's just the accountability of you have to heal your heartbreak. You got to heal your heartache. You got to heal that pain. It's going to have to start with you, and whatever they give you, cool. But that's never going to be satisfying anyways. I don't know any conversation where someone has had this closure and they're like, oh, I feel better, girl. He didn't tell me, she didn't tell me. And now all of a sudden you feel better. It's not how it works. It starts with you. And so it's one of the main reasons why I want to have this conversation.
That is this really sucky part of heartache, heartbreak, is this is essentially another person making a mess within you, but you have to clean it up.
You have to clean it up. Once again,
that person doesn't have access to your soul. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's only a place where only you and the Holy Spirit, right? Can go. So a lot of these things, I think that's the other thing, is that a lot of these things kind of happen. We get these, this will be another conversation, but I do believe in soul ties. Yeah. And we get our soul tied with someone else's. And once that is broken, that leaves a mess, right? Yeah. It leaves a lot of debris behind. Yep. And we're expecting this other person to be able to clean that up, and they can't. No. They can't, literally.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it, JB. I mean, I told you earlier, I didn't even know. I was struggling with the questions, which is why I left that one out. I was struggling. I was trying to keep it at an hour, which it never happens. We have to do better. But it's just such a sensitive topic. And I think it's something that people needed to hear. They needed to tune in. This is probably the most shares and that I had when it came to this conversation, because I think it's so prevalent and people are looking for ways to feel better, to heal, and to just do better. What does that look like? So thank you for partnering with me again. I absolutely love these conversations. And it was much needed. So thank you everybody who tuned in. It will be here for replay. If you have any questions, feel free to inbox me. JB's on my page too. If you have any questions, inbox her. But thank you guys so much. Enjoy your Saturday. Love you, JB.
Yes.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys. Bye.